Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the BC Wheelchair Sports Show. This week, we're doing another one of our Paralympic profiles. I'm joined by Austin Smeenk from Oakville, Ontario. He's a wheelchair racer heading to Tokyo to compete in his second Paralympic Games in only a couple weeks. How are you doing today, Austin?
Doing great. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. So thank you so much for joining us. Just to get things started, could you talk to us a little bit about how you got started in wheelchair racing?
For sure. So I think when I was 6 years old, I was always just a happy, active kid with a physical disability. I walked with a limp, but never really held me back. And my parents never told me I wasn't capable of doing anything. So climb a tree, get stuck, figure it out.
Nice.
Learned to ride a bike at a normal age. Always chasing balls and playing sports with kids. And then when I was 6 years old, they found the Mississauga Cruisers when I started playing sledge hockey. And so I started playing sledge hockey at age 6. And then at age 7, I started wheelchair track, gave that a try. And then I think around age 10, I started wheelchair basketball as well and did all three for a little while. So it was like Monday
Yep.
basketball, Tuesday track, Wednesday hockey, Thursday track, Friday off, Saturday track, Sunday hockey. So
Pretty
it was,
active lifestyle.
yeah, all over the place. And then from there, I kind of just stuck with a few. And when I got into when I was going towards grade 9, I believe, I stopped playing wheelchair basketball and kind of just focused on sledge hockey and track. And from there, I just continued to refine both of the sports until 2012 when I went to my first nationals in Calgary. And at that point, I did quite well. And my coach kind of sat me down and said, "Hey, buddy, like we gotta focus on track here. I think you can really make something of it." So from there on, we just did hockey or track.
Yeah. And what is it about track and wheelchair racing in particular that you enjoy the most?
Um, I've always liked to go fast. I think that not being a fast runner, I always did enjoy speed, wind in my hair, and um, yeah, through that I just jumped in a race chair and automatically fell in love with it.
And now you made your Paralympic debut in Rio in 2016, if I'm correct. What was that experience like, getting to represent Canada at a Paralympic Games?
It was phenomenal. Through the previous years leading up, I did a world championship in 2013, which was in Lyon, France. That was the first time I got to wear the Canada jersey, and it was really neat because obviously first time on the world stage representing. But and then in 2015 again, I represented for the Dubai or Doha World Championships in Qatar. But there was no village aspect, and there was no um, crazy media coverage and sponsorship and everything else that comes along with the game. So Rio is definitely very cool and a big spectacle to behold when I got there for sure.
And you had a fairly solid, Paralympic debut. Finished sixth and eighth in your two respective races. Definitely a lot that you could probably take away from that. What were the biggest lessons that you learned from your experience in Rio that you've taken forward in the past couple of years and into these games this year?
Um, I really just try and do your best, not to get psyched out through the performances and all the hype factor at the major games. So I think that the takeaways for sure were good to kind of shake out my sillies, if you will, or kind of get out there and be more comfortable in that environment. And for the future to really just dial in and keep my head down and do my race and not allow the outside pressures to come in so much.
Yeah, and you've had a few big years looking at like 2017, 2018, 2019, kind of before the pandemic hit, setting a number of Canadian records, making a few podiums at World Para Athletic events like in Switzerland. What did it feel like to finally make it onto an international podium, um, and set those records for a Canadian?
Feels great, obviously, for your hard work to pay off and to see yourself in that spotlight. Um, it was definitely just out of virtue of executing technique and not getting caught up in the reward at the end of the race. So I think that it was a phenomenal feeling, but it was sort of the Penny Alexiak moment where you look up and realize, oh my God, I just won that race, not drawing off of the future throughout the entire
Yeah,
process, which gets you there.
nice. And obviously, the past year and a half have been really difficult, for any athlete, and really everybody, with all that's been going on with COVID and things. But how have you managed to, continue training and just staying in that athlete mindset, heading into these next couple of weeks, throughout this past year?
I'm definitely always a glass half full kind of guy. So initially, when the pandemic hit, I looked at it in a sense of, okay, the future's uncertain, but it's somewhat nice to be able to slow down right now. I'd been traveling the world so intensively at the time, so it was kind of good to sort of refresh myself almost and feel like, um, take a little bit of a break and then realize how much I do love the sport and how badly I want to continue in the along the program. Um, and then moving forward from that, once we kind of got our bearings back and we're back in full training, my coach Lisa was very instrumental in getting us to have exemptions under Sport Canada to allow us to use all of the facilities which were otherwise closed to the public.
Yeah.
So once we got back into full swing of things, it was kind of like, all right, let's see what we can do with 5 years. This is gonna be good. Once they announced that it was just delayed, not canceled all out, it was a bit of a sigh of relief and excitement, drawn towards the extra time and that we can put towards training.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective too, of looking at the postponement, not necessarily as a bad thing, but as an opportunity to spend an extra year to just get that little bit stronger, a little bit faster, and maybe close some of those gaps.
For sure, and a little bit older, and as a developing young man, every year is stronger, right? So it's for sure been beneficial to have the extra time.
And now, for anybody who's watching or listening at home and they're wondering what they can cheer you on in Tokyo, what events will you be competing in this year?
I'll be competing in the 100 meter as well as the 800 meter middle distance race. So I kind of always thought of myself as a 800-meter guy or a middle distance racer, and then in recent, I've kind of really figured out how to start. So from there, it's a lot of fun to do the human NASCAR events, but also the drag races.
And how do you find transitioning between sprint events like the 100 meter and the more middle distance, like the 800 meter, because they are quite different, in approach and strategy. How's it been for you to balance those two things?
It's quite it can be a challenge mentally more than physically, to be honest. Physically, we have just increased the number or the volume in starts and sprints throughout every practice. So we do starts at every practice instead of just a couple times a week or so. Um, and then in the middle distance events, we just still train high volume and worry about kicks at the end. So those aspects on the physical side are somewhat coincide very well, but mentally it's a bit of a challenge because in the 100 you're focused on just head down to your own race, similar to downhill skiing or something. Everybody gets their own time to go do their thing, and at the end of the event, that's when you get to realize where you line up with everyone else. Whereas in the 800 meter, you have to train to know what's going on with everybody else, where other people are, when they might attack, and also be able to react to it.
Yeah, make those really like quick decisions as well. Um, Important. And so for you, you're a T34, if I'm correct. You're T34 racer, pretty competitive field when I'm kind of looking at the list of athletes and some of their recent results. So how is, I guess, the community in your category in that racing? Is there a lot of rivalries to look out for? Do people get along? Kind of give us a little bit of an insight into how things are between the lines.
It's pretty fun. Yeah, there's definitely some friendships going on and definitely some rivalries as well. The Commonwealth guys, we all get along fairly well and have a good rivalry going on between us, being Britain and Australia and Canada. We all have a good time together for sure. Um, and then rivalries, there's I think it's fair to say that the top eight, which have sort of been the top eight, as much as those friendships exist, the rivalries are very strong. Being that we've all been battling back and forth for the last bunch of years to find the top half of finals versus, just versus being on the top of the podium. So there's definitely some people to chase and some friendships along the way as well.
Nice. And so these are your second games. They're only 2 weeks away, which must be pretty surreal for you. What are you most excited about for Tokyo? To get down there and get into your second games.
Um, you know, I'm most excited for to go and be a role model for the youth and for the communities, the provinces, as well as the countries and internationally as a global citizen. I think these games are a very good test of the human resilience and ability to persevere through challenge. The Paralympics have always been a great model for persevering through challenge, but even more so through the pandemic. So I'm excited to be ranked highly going into the games, but also I'm just going there to do my best on the big stage, and whatever comes of that is really all I can ask for. But definitely most excited to be a leader and a
Nice.
role model.
Well, I really hope you do a phenomenal job, and I'm sure you'll represent Canada with pride. Going off of that and that point you made about being a role model, kind of for the next generation and everything, what advice would you have, for any kids or any newer wheelchair racers who are watching this and are thinking about, getting involved in racing, giving it a go, or maybe taking that next step and trying to become a competitive wheelchair racer like yourself?
Um, Definitely dive right in. Like it's wheelchair racing has become quite competitive and quite difficult. It's in order to sell as a sport. So there's a lot of equipment that you need to invest in order to put yourself in a position that you can excel versus something like wheelchair basketball or other sledge hockey where there's um, smaller organizations that do support with the upfront equipment, and you don't need to make such an investment. But anybody looking to take the next step, I'd say invest in your future and dream big and then wake up and build it. You need to be willing to execute those investments.
Cool. Awesome. So that ends my kind of sport and serious questions of the interview. Now we get into the fun stuff, just so people can get a better idea of who you are and get to know you and your racing routines a little better. So, what's your go-to like pre-race meal?
Um, I think that the night before, I usually stick to something like a pasta with meat sauce or something like that. Get my glycogen stores high.
Yeah, I get the carbo loading on.
Get some carbo loading on for sure. And then yeah, during the day of something light, I like to go with bagels and peanut butter, as well as bananas within a few hours of racing, and mass hydration. Make sure that I'm absolutely hydrated and full of electrolyte.
Cool. And are you a big music guy? Do you have like a pre-race mix that you listen to get in the zone, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm not very stereotypical, and I don't really follow any set routine. I like obviously more pump up, more upbeat music leading up through warm ups. Um, Definitely a bit of a country music fan, so party country or something along those lines of upbeat country music or whatnot. But Yeah.
If you could go to the Paralympics in any other sport, what sport would it be?
Oh boy, it's a good one. I don't know. I think downhill. I think para bobsled would be really cool in the Winter Games.
Nice. Yeah, that's a fairly new one.
The new one. But also, I think sledge hockey. I'd go back to sledge hockey in a heartbeat, given the opportunity. And I was a goaltender for the provincial level, and I think as a Canadian boy, it'd be a lot of fun to wear the Canadian hockey jersey and represent Hockey Canada on the world stage.
Who are some of your biggest supporters?
Definitely my parents. They've been through with it or with me for my whole life. But yeah, my parents are massive supporters. My girlfriend Celine, she's phenomenal as well. She's really cool with me traveling the world and coming back for only small amounts of time in periods. And then obviously my coach Lisa, she's been phenomenal and instrumental to my success through the planning aspects and um, working through that. And then can't leave out my training partners. Isaiah Kristoff trains with me, and he's always been a bit faster than me. He's a higher classification. So in the world of what people could understand, I don't know. He's a bigger sailboat. He goes a little bit faster than me. So he's always been great for me to chase, and he's definitely been instrumental towards my success.
Fantastic. All right, I think that wraps up all of my questions. Now it's kind of to wrap things up. I'll cede the floor over to you, and if there's anything you want to add about wheelchair racing or anything with you that you think people should know leading into Tokyo, now's your time to kind of share that, get your voice out to the world.
Um, well, I think that like I said before, being a role model and getting ready to be in the public eye on the world stage here. I think that it's important for everybody to remember that life comes with many challenges in all shapes and sizes, and pandemic is no different than that. So just remaining positive and trying to take the benefits out of each hand of cards you're dealt is the only way to see life through in a positive mentality, and to live a healthy active lifestyle. It's really important, especially with the recent lockdowns that the world has been facing, to get outside and meet new people. And you can always go outside and go for a walk and chat up the neighbors, or go to the park and hop on a swing.
Nice.
So important to stay active and healthy and be going outside and get enough fresh air.
Cool. All right, well, Austin, we're really excited to root for you in Tokyo. For anybody watching or listening to this show who's interested in finding out how you can follow the Paralympics, CBC will have unprecedented coverage of the Paralympic Games of Canada. We'll be posting an updated schedule for how to watch the events in the Pacific time zone, including Austin's events and the rest of the para athletics events that will be on display. If you want to get involved in wheelchair athletics in BC, feel free to contact us, reach out to us through our channels. I'll have a little bumper at the end of this with information on who to contact. And if you want to get involved where Austin is, out in around Oakville area, Mississauga, you want to learn more about the cruisers, we'll have some info on them at the end of this video as well. And we will be interviewing Austin's coach and one of our staff members, Lisa Myers, next week as well, to provide a little insight into the ins and outs of coaching wheelchair racing. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining us. Thanks for all that you do to be a great role model and to be a phenomenal athlete. I'm really excited to see how you do in Tokyo, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.